This is the Schmidt Storm. You've got questions, I've got answers. Let's get started. First question is from Anna, and it's about J.B. Pritzker and what he should do if Trump follows through on his orders to deploy militarized ICE and National Guard to Chicago, occupying the city as he's done in Washington, D.C. First, thanks for the question. The National Guard is going to Chicago, and ICE is going to Chicago. The orders have been issued, and it's all underway. What we are witnessing is an obscenity. What we are witnessing is a grotesque abuse of power. The militarization of America's cities on the basis of lies by a political faction that seeks to terrorize the country with the use of force aimed not at lessening crime, but at chilling dissent. That's what this is about. And you know that is true because America's deadliest cities, the most violent cities, they're not in the blue states, they're in the red states. And the one place you won't see any American soldiers carrying weapons, ready to fire at American civilians is in a red state. Any person who tells you that using the Army as a police force is appropriate in Washington or Chicago is a nitwit of the highest conceivable variety. The entire history of the United States, the leaders of this country have understood the military should not be used to police the population. In fact, we fought a revolution over that very issue in part. Next question is from Amanda, and it's about the RFK hearings in the U.S. Senate. And her question is, what did I see yesterday? What happened? What is the outcome? It's a great question because what happened isn't what occurred in the hearing. It's how the hearing was covered by the propagandists in the evening. There's an old saying that's helpful in politics and in football, baseball, a lot of different sports. And it's this: be where the ball is going to be. And if you apply that to the Democratic senators, that means having an appreciation not for how Robert Kennedy's going to respond to you, but how his response to you will be covered by the propagandists on Fox News, on Newsmax, on News Nation, all of the places where the insanity is soft-soaped. And so, here's the deal. Anybody who tells you yesterday was a defeat for Robert Kennedy, they don't get it. Anybody who tells you yesterday was a good day for the Senate Democrats, they don't get it either. Robert Kennedy was not weakened yesterday. Robert Kennedy was not cut off in any way from other elements of the Trump administration. There was no wedge put between MAGA and MAHA. The only thing that happened yesterday was that the zealots of MAHA got an injection of grievance into their tank. And it's that grievance that fuels MAGA and now fuels MAHA. Robert Kennedy was made to seem a victim yesterday, at least if you watched it on Newsmax, at least if you watched it on Fox. And in the end, there was really only one measurement for success for Democrats, and it was persuasive. Being able to talk to America's parents in a calm way, in a persuasive way, and make the point that Robert Kennedy, his policies, and Trump's, they have every potential to kill your child. The statistics suggest that it probably won't be your child killed by his insanity, but it will be somebody's child. And those children will have died for no reason other than Robert Kennedy became the Secretary of Health and Human Services. He is an angel of death. He is a messenger of insanity. He is addled, he is sick, likely psychotic, deeply amoral, and he has no business whatsoever in any position of responsibility. But that he does confirms the decay in our society and the sickness in our land. This question is from Jim. What do you make of the change that Donald Trump wants to impose from the Defense Department to the Department of War? Well, thanks, Jim. Thought Donald Trump ran as a peace president. Anytime a fascist runs, say like Mussolini or Hitler, promising peace, you can be sure war is coming because fascism always leads to war. Donald Trump will invent one, and then he will ask America's young men to die in one. not for their country, not for liberty, but for MAGA. Bet your bottom dollar on it. In Venezuela, we all saw the images of this boat destroyed by what Pete Hegseth claims was an American strike. The Venezuelan minister says the image was artificial intelligence. Who knows? None of these people have credibility above zero. Not Marco Rubio, not Pete Hegseth, not Donald Trump, none of them, not the Venezuelan minister. The ship was not interdicted. The ship was destroyed illegally with no congressional authorization. Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio and Donald Trump lack the power to kill indiscriminately. It's not lawful. The interdiction of that ship and the arrest of those people is what should have happened. Instead, all we know is that a small boat was sunk off of Venezuela, and Pete Hegseth, the same guy who said the Trump attack on Iran was the greatest military strike in human history, not D-Day, claims again this was another great military strike, MAGA. And if you believe that, I have a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn. Trump's lies are growing, more extreme and more dangerous. And if you haven't noticed, the lies have crossed a line now involve the killing of human beings. And the killing of those human beings without evidence, without documented fact, without any credibility, is celebrated by the Bible-quoting Marco Rubio, who, I like to always point out, would have been one of Fidel Castro's top aides if he was walking around in Cuba in 1959. The last question of the day in the Schmidt Storm is from Mary. And Mary asks, what is going to happen regarding the elections in 2026? Will we be able to vote? It's an incredible question to hear from an American citizen in 2025, as if the elections where Americans choose their leaders come at the whim of our politicians. Well, we live in a system increasingly because of gerrymandering where the politicians pick their voters, but they don't get to decide in this country if there's elections or not. Donald Trump doesn't get to decree I'm president for life, and I hate to break it to his sons, Uday and Qusay, but Eric, who said he may run for president and thinks he could do it, is never going to be president of this country. In fact, this will all be repudiated. Trump will die in absolute disgrace, and Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth and Carolyn Leavitt, all of these people will live for another 25, 30, 35 years after Trump's death, for decades after Americans from all walks of life go to wherever they bury him and piss on his grave. This moment will not endure. And any person who has faith in America should appreciate we've been here before. And they should also appreciate that free people will not tolerate the diktats of a tyrant. Abraham Lincoln said something that we should all remember. In America, with public sentiment, anything is possible. And without it, nothing is. Donald Trump was elected with 49.5% of the vote. His approval numbers are in the 30s, and they are going lower. The American economy is seizing, and Donald has taken the Soviet approach. The real numbers about the jobs will be out next year. Maybe that will be the date he unveils his 5-year plan. The economy is seizing. The American people see the unemployment rates ticking up. Young people know they can't get a job. Ordinary people know the prices are rising. American soldiers know the Pentagon is in chaos. And if you're in the National Guard, you know that there's no better gardening class in all the world. Look at these guys mulching in Washington. Terrific, very brave, lethal mulchers. America's in trouble because the American people elected the man who tried to overthrow the government, because in the end, they decided the most prolific liar in American history was the more honest candidate on the economy and immigration and on President Biden's fitness. And that marks one of the great tragedies in American history. And the cost of that decision will be very, very high. And the payment for it, well, it's not even really yet begun. But we will all pay for it. And when we get done paying for it, we'll remember it for a very long time. And one of the things that will come out of all of this is a warning and a lesson that will be handed down for a couple generations until it's forgotten and the next Trump comes along. But there will be a record left behind about how to survive them and how to defeat them. And that will be a good that comes from this that we can hand down to all of our descendants. For now, this is the Schmidt Storm. This is the warning. Thank you. Have a good weekend. I'm Steve Schmidt. This is The Warning. I invite you to join this community where I promise to be honest, blunt, and direct about what is happening in this country. America is in crisis. Follow and subscribe to this channel and on Substack. Thank you.